Okay, so we'll just go ahead and go through. I've got, we'll look at the handouts here in a minute. But before we move forward, let me start by saying thank you. I've actually never launched small groups any church I've been at. I've been in ministry for more than a year. And I've never launched small groups. And so this is all new to me. Like even the training that last semester, it was kind of like, hey, will you do this? Now have fun. And so when I was looking at the schedule, I realized tonight would be an opportunity. We could kind of take a breath and have some time to do this. With people out, I am recording, and I'll be able to send it to them. So we'll do that. One of my big things is I always want to know when we do something, what's our why and what's our when. I never want to do something just because it's something to do. I always want a purpose behind it. So as I sat down and bounced this with people, here's what I came up with our why for circles, why we're doing circles. We desire to help students develop relationships that sharpen their faith and encourage them to live lives dedicated to God. And it still needs a little bit of grammar policing, but the idea is relationships. And that's the pitch is who you surround yourself with matters. And we want those relationships that sharpen their faith. You think of Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron. And then I think it's 27:17. It's Proverbs 27. If you know it, just nod your head. But sharpen their faith and encourage them to live lives dedicated to God. So that's kind of our big why. Here, when you go home on a Wednesday night, if you didn't do anything else, these are the things I want you to you can lay your head down knowing I did these three things and we'll be good. So our wins. As a circle leader, you win when students feel seen, heard, and known. This is every student matters, and so we have specifically four 7th grade basketball boys who are here tonight. One of them, it's their first time, and we want each of them to feel seen, heard, and known, and that's what we're going for. And I will tell you, actually, every small group or every circle is represented. Middle school guys are probably the hardest. That would be my guess. But they're also the most fun when you get them going. But we want them to feel seen, heard, and known. Biblical connections are made. Okay, I'm not expecting you to impart theological truths on your circle. Don't feel like you have to do that. So if you go home and you're like, I don't know if they understand dispensationalism, that's okay. None of us do, right? But we do want to connect them with Scripture in the process. And then we want them equipped and challenged to live out their faith. And the reason equipped and challenged is we want to give them an opportunity to put their faith into practice. We don't control whether they do or not. Like, we're not walking in with a ruler next week and slapping them on the hand if they didn't do it. But we want to give them the opportunity, so it's up to them from that point. Does that make sense? Any question on those? Are they simple enough? Okay. That's what I'm hoping. That this is what we want to do. One thing on the first one, students feel seen, heard, and known. There's a delicate balance in here where and you can work with it in your circle, but what do you do for a kid who is missed? You know, 1 week is a text, 2 weeks is a note, 3 weeks is a punch. I mean, you know, and I don't have a process. I'd be happy to talk you through some of that. But when I'll say this now. I don't know what our attendance will be like this semester. I do know I averaged the numbers for the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021, and the spring was 5 less. Our average was 5 less than the fall. It's just a little bit harder time. But I'm hoping that the circles we can help with that a little bit. So there's that. We'll keep going. Our semester schedule, this is what you have in front of you. The spring semester, if you don't know this, is actually, as far as ministry goes, I don't know if it's the same at school, but is actually considerably longer than the fall. The fall is pretty quick, but the spring always seems to have more. So we could fit 4 units in, but we chose not to. We built in some of the feedback that we got from y'all was to have that you like the check-in nights. So we built in 2.5 check-in nights. That, and I'll talk about that kind of as we go down. And then another thing that I did was I tried to add what I'm calling bring a friend events. And this is, I had 2 girls sit down with me and say, one of the things that they brought up was this girl, high school girl, has high school guy friends that she wants to invite, and Wednesday night isn't, it's hard to say, hey, come to church with me, and then we won't spend any time together after the songs. And so trying to kind of pick our spots where we're still looking for those relationships, but we want bring a friend events. So like Circles Live, it's not on there, but Circles Live is a bring a friend event. Like it's not, that's a great night to do. If we circle that and just kind of say, this is the night we want you to bring a friend, then that works. Spring break, March 16th. That'll be a bring a friend event. I don't know what it will be, but I'm leaning towards a photo scavenger hunt. So it would be a start up here and then go out type thing. April 6th is a check-in night, but it's actually what I'm thinking about doing is it will be something where each circle is doing some kind of service project. Packing bags for I don't know, some kind of agape from Kelly or something like that. But that's kind of what I'm looking at for April. And then May 18th and 25th will be we'll play those by ear a little more than usual, but a bring a friend event and then just kind of hang out. The 25th, I think school is still in, but that's the last week of school, and so we'll see where we'll see what those look like. But that's the idea. When you look at it, we've also tried something different on as far as our units go. The first unit is going to be something that we are writing. Mike and I are writing together based off what is being taught on Sundays. And so that's what the next 3 pages are. On Sundays, and you can, it's in the email if you got the email. But we're going over habits, and for our generation, it's spiritual disciplines. But instead of calling them disciplines, it's an acrostic and it's habits. We're out of order, but it's hanging out with God, Bible memorization, accountability. HABITS. Hanging out with God, accountability, Bible memorization / study, involvement with the body, tithing, and then one that we don't have in there is sharing your story. But that'll probably be an element in Circles Live. And so that we're playing with, let's take what we're doing Sunday, roll it into, and so Wednesday night is a continuing discussion. Hopefully they've been thinking about it for a few days. We have part of our group that probably 2/3 of our group is here on Sundays. It's the same group. And we have some kids who are only Sunday kids and some who are only Wednesday kids. So when you look at the sheets, this is the first draft for next week. There's a paragraph that explains it. There's kind of the 4 or the points. It's not always 4, but the points that we're going to go over. Some scriptures that are used, and then questions. I'm going to try to get you between 5 and 7 questions, and this will be true with all of our material. don't feel like you have to cover every question, right? Because if you go back to our win, what's our win? Our win isn't that we got through the curriculum. Our win is that biblical connections are made, and then students are equipped and challenged to live out their faith. And so focus heavy on that part, especially with habits, with the first 4 weeks. You can focus real heavy on the application. Accountability is going to be relatively simple because we have something called RAP practice. So a RAP session is with an accountability partner. You work through 3 things. First is report, and so just kind of ask how your week was, stuff like that, and there's questions on there to help with that. And then you ask the tough questions, because when you're somebody's holding you accountable, there are questions you don't want to be asked, and those are the questions that need to be asked, and then you pray. As I have done this is something that I try to do every January. I text the guy who's my accountability partner and was like, hey, do we want to start up again? And this year I was like, I'm not going to do it. And he texted me yesterday. He said, hey, do you want to start up again? I was like, yeah, sure. But there's something about praying out loud for somebody and hearing somebody pray out loud for you that is, I can't think of a better word than remarkable. Like it's just, there's something about it that just changes you. So, you will actually do accountability and tithing together, because this past Sunday we talked about accountability, and this Sunday Micah will teach on tithing and generosity, and that's part of. I started adding some questions on tithing, but I'm not sure where she's going to go with the teaching, and so we're going to kind of see how see where that goes, and then I will give you a second part of that, and the other part is. It's kind of hard to practice tithing. You know, it's like, okay, now to practice, everybody open your wallet. But the idea is a discussion. That just we want them to do that. One thing I will say on tithing, and I don't know if Michael will say this Sunday or not, but is tithing doesn't have to be when I get money. It's a decision we make now. I don't know what your stories are on that. Micah and I tithed when we couldn't afford to. Like it's something that, and Micah specifically, more than me, she's better than I am. But we were making my favorite when I teach it. My favorite thing is to say we were making $900 a month, and rent was $415 plus utilities, and it was never a question of whether or not we were going to tithe. Like it was one of the things we did, and that is something that because we did that as young bucks. It's been a huge part of our life. So I'll have that. Closing thoughts, loving accountability multiplies growth, and then giving back to God is a constant reminder that God is first in my life. I'm hoping next week to have the other 3 sessions written for you as well. Maybe we can get that knocked out. So does that make sense on the first unit? Okay. Second unit is a different, it's the same company who made what we used last semester. It's a different format. It looks different. And I think it will be easier to kind of make your way through. It's not all words. Like the other one was very overwhelming with words. And so Broken is that series. And then the third unit, Sacred, is another series from Leader Treks. But we will do the same thing that we're doing with habits, where we teach it on Sunday morning and then you talk about it on Wednesday night. Okay? Let me ask you this question. Would it be worth it? Would it be beneficial if, because you're the only one with us on Sunday morning, so you 3 specifically, would it be beneficial if I sent you the recording of what we talked about? Not that you have to listen to it, but you could listen to what is said.
I think so.
Okay.
There should be enough time.
Yeah.
To even knock it out in chunks before Wednesday.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay. Then I'll make a point to do that. I record every time I teach anyway. Mm-hmm. It just never goes anywhere. So, but we'll do that. Micah will be happy that I'm going to record her. And so we will try to do that for both of those, and see how that goes. Because it's an experiment. I'm hoping that this works. That we bought a new curriculum to kind of help with that. So any questions there?
I guess, will the kids be receiving a copy of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
We'll print out a copy of that rap practice for everybody.
And then are we explicitly trying to get them to find an accountability partner, or is that something that they've already done?
No.
Okay.
So the whole idea, I'm glad you asked that. The whole idea is the series is, I'm actually calling Small Steps, Big Change. And it's not that you have to do all 6 all the way right now, but hopefully by the end of it, it's a what next step are you going to take? What small step can you take now to pay dividends later? And it may be accountability, it may be scripture memory and study. But if we can practice, then that kind of, for me, I like to have somebody hold my hand the first time. I'm not real adventurous, and so if we can kind of take the stigma away from that, I think that helps. Does that? And that's a good thing. A good question. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Time frame that our new goal is going to be we will have finished with music by 6:15, and it is go to your circles at 6:15, and so plan on probably about 40 minutes worth of time in your group. If you just kind of distractions, and as you finish, you can plan accordingly. And then again, as you plan that, keep these in mind, that students, our goal, our win is that we want students to feel seen, heard, and known. Biblical connections are made, and students are equipped and challenged to live out their faith. Okay, and so whatever that looks like, and we'll talk a little more about that in just a second. Recruiting. And our high school girls are right on the edge. A group of 10 talkative girls. No. In a group of 10 high school girls, if you have 2 talkative girls, you'll have 8 who may or may not talk. If you have 2 groups of 5 girls, then that conversation and those relationships have an opportunity. Our high school guys are like our girls would benefit from a split. Last semester, I don't know what the spring looks like. Our guys are close, but I'm not sure. Again, when baseball comes, we'll lose some of our baseball guys probably every week. But I don't know for sure. And so that'll be something that probably at the end of the first unit, by the time we get to Circles Live, we'll have an idea. But here's what I want to say. For those of you who did the Working Genius, there are 6 working geniuses: wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity. Okay? The one that we need, galvanizing, is where you're like, hey, let's jump on board. Of the 12 people who took it, 2 of them scored high with that as a genius. And like 8 of us, including me, have it as a frustration. And so, which means we can all do it, but it's not like it's not what we enjoy. And so, that being said, if for our circles to grow and multiply, not split has bad connotations, but for our circles to grow and multiply, I need some help recruiting. If you think of somebody as you have conversations, and here's the reality: I can talk to people. Let's say I can talk to 10 people this semester and say, hey, would you be willing to teach? Hey, would you be willing to teach? Okay, that's 10. We have 8 to 9 committed circle leaders. If each of you talk to 2 people, that's 18. That's almost double what I can do. And so it's just a numbers game. And if you talk to somebody who might be interested, I don't mind giving the pitch. But I need help in recruiting so that we can do that. And even if it's hey, maybe next semester, because if this is something that we like and we stick with, I'm hoping that we have 50 kids in circles by the end of next year. That's crazy, but you know, I'm hoping we hit some big growth. But in order to do that, we've got to have the adults to do it. So there's that. Time frame and recruiting, resources and crowdsourcing. Okay, I didn't mix my paper up. The books. How useful were having physical copies of the lessons in your hand? Is that beneficial?
I thought it was.
You thought it was?
But that might just be my learning style.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to have some, I mean, like, even though I have a Bible app,
Right.
I like to have
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. We will. Hopefully, I have books for you next week when we start. And the things that we put into it, the front of it had. Had would you rather questions, 10 tips for leading small groups, and like 100 would you rather questions. Is something like that beneficial? Do you want something like that again? Or do you just want just the facts, Joe Friday?
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have it.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to have it.
I mean, I think I used the app with the icebreaker.
Yeah,
Most weeks we were in there just to have something random.
just to have some, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, worked out really well.
Yeah.
The kids really liked it.
Yeah, good. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll try to throw some of those kinds of resources in as well. Something I thought about. I think I may put in a graph, a blank graph, so you can write names of your kids in, and almost keep track of attendance.
Yeah.
But you know, in the book, I don't know why I didn't think of that last time, but we'll try to do
Yeah,
that.
could you do like individual pages per week even? Or is that asking too much?
No, we could do that.
For a blank page for notes when you write names down.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So is
Because we turn in the attendance log to
uh-huh.
you guys.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful for us to have our own copy of that.
Right,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
easier
So-
than you having to email it
yeah.
or something.
Okay, so page per week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that too much space?
Yeah, you could. I mean, I'm sure you
The-
could split it into like
Yeah.
4 per
Okay.
page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something, you know, have like a master list of
So yeah,
what's there, and then,
what I was thinking is, you know, just
yeah, in the margins.
yeah, you could write a name and then do 6 weeks. But if you want more space, so you can kind of jot down notes
Yeah.
week to week too. That may not be a bad idea.
Okay.
Even if you just do a blank page in between chapters.
In between chapters,
Yeah.
or let that be the blank page, because we had a blank page. There's
Yeah.
a separator page in there,
Right.
so it's just a matter of it. We put that.
Using it.
Yeah. That's easy.
Yes.
That's easy. That's an easy change. Okay. So we'll do that, and then crowdsourcing. What was something that you did with your circle that worked well? I want to hear good things from your experience last semester.
For high school girls, getting to that final activity was crucial.
Yeah.
Like in the attitude they left with, because they really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And kind of giving them a chance to get up and moving or working together. So
Okay.
I think but there were weeks where we never even got there.
Right.
Because I think we were trying so hard to make sure we got through all
Mhm.
the material, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it's going to be like that
Right.
this time around.
Yeah. I wish I would have thought to bring some of it, but I mean we're still a month and a half away
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
getting to it. So.
Middle school girls, I felt like we took it. They really began to start opening up and sharing, especially one, about what was going on in their lives. And sometimes we'd be like, okay, gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I realized looking back, that was the first step of them. Because like for me, it was one of the first times I was doing middle school girls.
Yeah.
And so it was making that connection. And they already knew Melissa.
Right.
But, kind of getting to that point. And, but trying to reach out from just, because we had such a small group,
Right.
and sometimes it would feel almost a little awkward when we had one.
Yeah.
So trying to kind of get that group to
Yeah. Yeah.
The high school boys, once we kind of, like a lot of other people said, you know, they were trying to make them drink through a fire hose at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then, again, nothing bad, like not
Right.
negative. We kind of, about halfway through, sort of abandoned that and just kind of let it go where it needed to go. And the good thing about the high school boys is I had guys like Caden
Mm-hmm.
and that group that are talkative
Yeah.
and want to talk about the material.
Yeah.
And it kind of helped all the other kids, and it always worked where we would find something, even if
Yeah.
it wasn't the main topic, but something out of that material would jump out to one of those kids, and they would be excited about it,
Yeah.
and they would all want to talk about it. And if that's all, and we decided amongst ourselves, if that's
Yeah.
all we did, then that was
Yeah.
great. As
Yeah.
long as, kind of going back to what we talked about, where our wins are this time.
Yeah.
If they made a connection, then we were good.
Yeah. Good. Reagan, you were abbreviated in there.
Yeah, I mean, just from my observation, even though I wasn't the main one leading,
Right.
kind of seemed like at least from my observations, that the middle school boys, pretty quiet, which I know sometimes that can be personality,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
so that's,
And yeah, so much of, and this is why I regret that we didn't have a training before, was like middle school guys. So the playing ping pong at the end, finishing a little earlier and playing ping pong may be the best thing you could do for them to build that trust with each other, to have those discussions. And so much of last semester was filling each other out and trying to establish those relationships. So hopefully by March this year, you're being able to get where you want to go, and we'll see. So good. One of my favorite things to do when I'm leading a group of kids, and I do it with Caden every chance I get, is I'll pull him aside and say, okay, or not even pull him aside, but say, okay, I want you to lead this. Like even hand him the book and say, I want you to do this, and he will. And not just Caden. I've seen kids who are kind of somewhat engaged, but when they're one navigating, they elevate, and everybody responds to them elevating too. And so if you have a kid who seems kind of disengaged, it's kind of hard with one. But in middle schools, it is a little different. But high school, you can say, okay, hey, I want you to lead the application part this week, and that's always a fun way. So